3.4 Factoring Algebraic Expressions. Factors are multiplied together to get a number, and the biggest factor that's the same for both numbers is our GCF. So to find the GCF between two numbers, we can use two different methods. There are other methods, but two common methods. And the first method is to use the Venn diagram. In the Venn diagram, we list out the factor pairs. So factor pairs of 24 are these. And then the factor pairs of 18 are these. Okay, now in this middle section here, we're going to list all the factors that are the same on both sides. 1, 2, 3, and 6. And as you guessed it, the largest one in this list is our GCF. Now, the other way we can factor or find the greatest common factor is to use our prime factorization. Remember, that looks like this. So then our prime factorization of 24 ends up being 2 times 2 times 2 times 3. And then our prime factorization tree of 18 looks like this. 2 times 3 times 3. Now, to find the GCF, we find what's in common on both sides. Both sides have a 2 times 3. So we do that. 2 times 3 is 6. So the GCF is 6. Now, if you need to review how to do these, you can pause and just take a look at this again. All right, now it is time for you to write in your notes. You need to do the top section. Now, when we factor expressions, we need to use the GCF, and we need to do the distributive property backwards. That means we need to divide instead of multiply. Factoring an expression means we want it back in this form here with the GCF on the outside. Okay, so here we have two examples. In this first one, we have two terms in our expression, 2x and 8. So we need to find the GCF of 2x and 8. We're going to look at the coefficients because this is a constant and there's no x on that side, so we can only look at the coefficients. Now, the GCF of 2 and 8 is just 2. Next step is to divide each term by the GCF. So 2x divided by 2 and 8 divided by 2. Okay, I'm going to simplify this. So 2x divided by 2 is the same as just x, and 8 divided by 2 is the same as 4. Remember, we want it in this form here. Well, we have the parentheses part. What goes on the outside? The GCF. Our GCF is 2, so it looks like that. Now we can check our answer by multiplying this out. Here is our answer. And now we can multiply it out. 2 times x is 2x, and 2 times 4 is 8. This looks exactly like our original, so we know that this is correct. All right, let's do one more example. Okay, we have 12 minus 16x. There's only an x here, so let's just look at the coefficients for our GCF. 12 and 16, they have a GCF of 4. Okay, so we found our GCF. We're going to divide each term by the GCF. So 12 divided by 4 and 16x divided by 4. 12 divided by 4 is 3. 16x divided by 4 is 4x. Now here we've completed our parentheses part, and now got to put the GCF on the outside, which we found to be 4. So it should be this. But let's check our answer. 4 times 3 is 12, and 4 times 4x is 16x. And this looks the same as our original, so we know that this answer is correct. All right. Sometimes we are told to factor out the coefficient of the variable. Now remember, the variable is the letter in your expression or equation. excuse me, in this case it's x, and the coefficient is the number that goes in front of the variable. Okay, the number in front of the variable. That's the coefficient. Okay, so we are asked here to divide or to find the coefficient. Excuse me, we are asked to factor out the coefficient of the variable. So that means we need to factor out 1/2. That means we're factoring, so we need to do the opposite of the distributive property, which means we need to divide. So we're going to divide each term by 1/2. Okay, so I'm going to go over here. So this expression can be also rewritten as this. That's the same thing. Okay, so x over 2 divided by 1/2. Remember, 1/2 is our coefficient. And then 3/2 divided by 1/2. These are fractions, so we need to keep change flip. So this ends up being just x, right? Because this can cancel out. And then this one becomes 3/2 times 2 over 1. These can cancel out, so this just ends up being 3. So when we divide our expression by the coefficient, we get this. Now remember, we need to put it into distributive property form. That means putting the GCF on the outside. We were to multiply this out, we could check our answer. 1/2 times x and 1/2 times 3. And does this here match our original? It does. So our answer here is correct. Okay, now an example of factoring out a negative number. Okay, so we are told to factor out -2 from this expression. Okay, so let's do that. -4p divided by -2, and then a 10 divided by a -2. Okay, -4p divided by -2, negative divided by a negative is a positive, so this becomes just 2p. And then 10 divided by a -2, a positive divided by a negative is a negative, so this ends up being 5. All right, this is our parenthesis part of our distributive property. And remember, on the outside goes the GCF, or what we were told to factor out, which was -2. So then our answer should be this here, but we can check it by going -2 times 2p, which is -4p, and -2 times a -5, which is a positive 10. Does this match our original? It does, so our factorization over here is correct. All right, time for you to write in your notes. And now, time for you to do a few practice problems. Okay, I will give you some hints on these. On this one, this should say factor out the GCF for number 1, but I obviously must have erased it. Factor out GCF. Okay. So what's the GCF between 4 and 20? It's 4. So now we divide each term by 4. Okay. So then that should become what? Y minus 5. But that's not complete. What goes here? Okay. And then my hint for number 2, we're told to factor out the coefficient. The coefficient is 0.5, right? That's the number in front of the x. Okay. So we divide both terms by 0.5. Okay. So the answer here goes here. The answer here goes here. and something goes out here. That's my hint to you. Okay, the last one. Factoring out a -4. Okay, so -8k. -4 plus 12 divided by -4. That means what? This becomes something positive, and this becomes something negative. And then out here goes something. What is that something? And that is your answer. You can also check it to make sure that you end up, when you multiply it out, that you get that. And that is the end of 3.4.